What is up, cinephiles, and welcome back to Screen Kings. For today's movie roundup, I have 2 romance films and 1 survival biopic. Let's start first with the latter. We have 13 Lives, directed by Ron Howard. This one chronicles the events of the Tham Luang cave rescue back in 2018 when a junior football team along with their coach gets stuck in a cave for a long period of time. I'm not gonna say what specific number of days because if you're not aware of these events, I won't spoil it to you guys. Now, there is already an excellent Nat Geo documentary that was released last year, and I thought that was really compelling in mixing the real-life footages and some clever dramatizations of what truly went down. So the challenge is how to top that documentary. Will this be necessary? What value is there to add? So this one is a good companion piece because it enriched the documentary in terms of putting perspective and additional insights to the main players in the story in a way that a documentary can't capture. I remember the details having seen it just last year and they remained faithful to it. I thought the pacing is deliberate. They can easily fall onto the trap of making it overly dramatized, you know, Hollywood hysterics and flash, but Ron Howard here steered away from that and used a grounded filmmaking approach. Almost feels like it's a part thriller slash part diver procedural. I actually appreciate it because they're just stating the facts of what actually happened here and just highlight the cooperation among different people coming together so you can see the drama and this tension that these divers have to face, as well as everyone involved in the story, because this is basically what humanity has best to offer. We have different people coming to rescue these boys. We have Navy SEALs, from the locals to the farmers to the government officials making sound judgments. So this is nothing short of a rousing story that needs to be told, the kind of inspiration that we need these days. In terms of technical achievement, I think this movie also impresses because in terms of recreating those conditions, you know, you can see the water drifting from the ceilings of the caves, as well as the filmmaking employed when it comes to capturing some underwater and underground shots. So you feel like you're submerged into that claustrophobic experience. And also this movie has a better grasp of the ethical questions that these people will have to face, because it's not just a simple act of rescuing these children. You're basically risking their lives. And so if you want to know the logistics of what went down, the best thing to go for is still the documentary, but in terms of providing that insight, the discussion among the divers here, which I think the heart of the story is, this one is a good companion piece. We have a strong cast here led by Viggo Mortensen, Colin Farrell, and Joel Edgerton. What I love about their characterization is that the script does not give them a moment of grandeur into turning this into a white savior story. And it's also highlighted the Thai cast here, everyone who had a hand in this rescue mission. So overall, this is a good source of inspiration and thrills. It's inspiring without being too over sentimental. I think it's just the right balance of spectacle and truth. And yeah, this is a bounce back for Ron Howard's latest outing, which is Hillbilly Elegy, because he knows how to put this in a grounded filmmaking approach, not losing its authenticity. So I'm gonna give this a 4.5 out of 5. The next film we have is Wedding Season. It's a romance film from Netflix directed by Tom Day. In it, we have an Indian-American woman named Asha, played by Pallavi Sharda, whose parents and aunties continue to try her to get married. So they set her up to this Indian guy named Ravi, played by Suraj Sharma. And together they agreed to pretend to date so that they can have their relatives off their backs. And in a true rom-com fashion, the pretend starts to feel like real as they fall for each other and they try to figure out who they want to be versus who their parents want to be. Now, this is a rom-com, so this one is going to be predictable. You know what's going to be the conflict of the story, especially that we have here the Indian culture. It's so common that we have the modern version of still some sort of an arranged marriage. So you've seen this movie before. It kind of reminded me of this Netflix film that was released 2 years ago. It's called Holiday, where two leads here are pretending to be dating. So this one is basically a South Asian version of that. What makes this movie your slightly elevated Hallmark film is because of the representation. Now, I appreciate the representation here, but just because I've seen a lot of Indian rom-coms, that staple where there is a disapproving parent who wants their children to be wed off to someone who's successful, career-oriented. That is such a common thing, and to see it play a major plot line here, I felt like I'm already over by it. So halfway through this film, I wanted to discontinue it, not because it's a bad film, but just because I've seen this story so many times. I just finished it just for the sake of getting out a review. It doesn't surprise me that the director of this film is a white guy, because not that there are offensive stereotypes or generalizations here, but I felt like when it comes to representation, what they did is just, present a lot of stereotype characters, do a lot of generalizations, and call it representation. So it doesn't feel like a lived-in story. It just feels like they're just profiling these characters. And I wasn't really compelled. It felt like it's a shame, because we have here two actors, Pallavi Sharda and Suraj Sharma. So Pallavi here is a party girl millennial who works at a microfinance investment firm. And then we have here Ravi, who went to MIT and he's on a startup business. So they're both defiant and they're both independent characters, which makes them perfect for each other. But in essence, you can sense that they are already Americanized Indian characters, and I felt like this movie just barely scratched the surface in knowing who they are, what are their values. Actually, I just watched this movie because maybe I'm in the mood to see Indian weddings because they're the best. The costumes delivered, but overall this movie doesn't really offer any new insight. It's not terrible, it's not bad by any means, but it makes it forgettable, considering that this is a common plotline that I've seen in Asian cinema. So I just have to keep this review short because I have nothing much to say about this film for a rom-com. I don't get much of that I didn't get much of the laughs. And yeah, there's just funny white guy who tries his hard to pay respects to the Indian culture. The same way can be said about this movie. It's like it's trying its best. I see the effort, but sometimes it feels awkward and a bit cringy. So I'm gonna give this a 2.5 out of 5 stars. Okay, now to the next Netflix romance film. We have Purple Hearts, directed by Elizabeth Rosenbaum. This is based on the novel of the same name by Tess Wakefield. So in it, we have Sofia Carson playing a struggling singer-songwriter named Cassie, and Nicholas Galitzine as Luke, a Marine with a troubled past. Together, they agreed to get married for the sole purpose of getting these military benefits. But when a tragedy strikes, again, you guessed it right, this pretend relationship starts to feel real as they're faced by their respective problems that will be solved if they stay together in that relationship. So this film reminds me of a Nicholas Sparks novel, that kind of movie adaptations that we hate to admit but we still watch. So it's a feel-good film and it knows what it is. It wears its heart on its sleeve. There's no meet-cute. The marriage starts and then the getting to know phase comes after. So I think that's a shake-up in the formula. Sure, there are some predictable plot elements here, but you can't really strip that away from the romance genre. Like at one point, I guess that this character is probably going to die, and yup, I'm right. What makes this movie different is usually when it comes to this kinds of films, there is a message to deliver to the audience. But in here, we have two very opinionated individuals who have political differences. So this one is very much political. If you're angry at your government, at its insufficiency when it comes to providing health insurance specifically, then this is the movie for you. And yeah, it represents the two perspectives of America, the left and the right. So I don't think the job of this movie is to correct or pick a side, but just to show reality of what it is, that both sides can be annoying to each other. This movie gets a lot of flack over its lack of political sense, especially that we have two individuals with two different values. It's not that political views are a major part on how relationships will succeed, but in a way that they're selling this story, like it is from enemies turns to lovers. It almost feels like a wish fulfillment at times, because the movie kind of sidesteps on the issue and just focuses on other things where it does matter. You know, you see these different characters going into their own problems and them solving a problem together. So you can see the arc and the development in the characters, finding redemption and light from each other. But I wish they explored more on that, considering this is a blatant political film. But yeah, everything else, they have a passionate chemistry, and I guess it's easy because they are both good actors and they're both attractive. There's also a music that nicely ties all of the experience together. Initially, I'm not a huge fan of the breathy singing voice of Sofia Carson, but since this is the kind of music that's very much in tune to the milieu today, it became catchy, and I'm not gonna deny that I googled the songs after I listened to it on Spotify. So I guess for my experience on this film, I'm willing to overlook some of its flaws because I got sucked in. I was rooting for the relationship. I want them to be together in the end of the film. This one checks all the marks, you know, the requisites that you need from a romance film. So I'm not gonna complicate things and give this one a 3.5 out of 5. That's it for my review for those 3 films. Have you seen any of them? Let me know what you think in the comment sections down below. Also, if you enjoyed watching this video, hit that like, and if you haven't yet, the subscribe button for more content. Thank you so much guys for watching. Until then, I'll see you all on the next one.